We are here to talk about how you can't keep the ACC out of the playoff. Mark Packer, ACC PM, ACC Network. Sir, how are you on this fabulous Monday morning?
Adam, first of all, it's afternoon now, right?
It is. That's right. I have no – gosh, I feel like I just got up. I do.
The good news is it's October, and who doesn't love October? I mean, the weather's great. There's all kinds of sports going on. You got the college thing going on, obviously. Great pros. You got the postseason baseball.
Yeah.
Hockey's rocking. NFL's doing its thing. Basketball's right around the corner. It's really the best time of the year. It's a fantastic time. It really is.
It is great. And, of course, daytime high temperatures in the low 70s is also good. All right, I mentioned when we set this up yesterday, Miami is right there where I don't know if we thought they would be here. We hoped they would be here. We keep waiting for Mario Cristobal to happen, but Cam Ward might prevent that. But Clemson is also playing maybe better than Miami, probably better than Miami is playing at this point. But then you've got Pitt and you've got SMU all playing at a high level. SMU's only loss was the field goal loss to BYU in the rock fight from like week 2 or week 3 of the season. First of all, are you optimistic at more than 2 ACC teams in the playoff?
More than 2, I think two's the sweet spot number, Adam. I think, obviously the ACC champs locked and loaded to go, but the way it looks sitting here at the halfway point, I mean, the chances for the combination of Clemson and Miami, for argument's sake, look pretty good. Pitt continues to do its thing, even though it struggled for the first time offensively this weekend against a Cal defense that's legit. NC State's going to find that out this weekend in Berkeley. And you look at SMU's schedule, and again, you can get goofy with your schedules, but SMU's looking around going, hey, we don't see Miami, we don't see Clemson, and we'll take our chances with everybody else. So I think you could get a combination of more than 2 teams that win 10 or more games, but at the end of the day, when it gets to the pecking order that, hey, your champion goes, you better have something on the resume more than just say, hey, we won double digit and win. So I think 2 is the magic number for the ACC, but if you told me today they get 3, I think Jim Phillips and every ACC fan would sign up for it.
So here's what I hope the narrative will be, because in the grand scheme of things, you and I are in alignment here. If SMU finishes the season 11-1, even though we know that there's nothing but Hostess cupcakes the rest of the way for them, not that you can always lose a game. I should say that out loud first. But if SMU finishes 11-1 and Clemson and Miami meet as undefeated ACC teams in the ACC championship game, first of all, I'm not sure how the tiebreaker works out if SMU wouldn't shoehorn their way in there at some point. But if SMU is left out as an 8-0 ACC team because there are 2 other 8-0 ACC teams, I just don't know how they can not look like hypocrites if they hold SMU accountable for their schedule, even though they tried when they played BYU, as opposed to Ohio State, who I think will be crowned MAC champion for their non-conference schedule.
Well, the only thing I'd tell you is I know every year is a different year, a different committee. But, man, I just take it back to last year. Florida State was 13-0 and actually had beaten people of note.
Yeah.
And they didn't make the cut. Now, granted, the field's 12 this year, not 4. But the point of it is just because you have a gaudy number sitting there as your overall record, at the end of the day, you got to have quality wins. Because let's be honest, whatever the combination of teams that we're discussing in the ACC that are not the ACC champ, they're going to be being compared to the 9-3, 10-2, 11-1 SEC teams. Same thing with the Big Ten. Whether that be a combination of Michigan, Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, whatever shows up on that end. So, again, we got such a long way to go. And I went to that whole mock thing 6-7 years ago, and I thought it was fascinating. And to be honest with you, the only time the committee got it wrong as far as being consistent was last year with Florida State. It was the first time they went against everything they ever preached or stood for. So we'll see where this thing goes. I mean, we're living in crazy times. I mean, listen, Army and Navy are ranked for the first time since 1960 in the AP poll. Not that the AP poll is the the judgment, but that's all we got until the committee comes out with the only poll that matters on November the 5th. But the good news for the league, since we're kind of spinning it that way in this conversation, is it's not just, as it's been in the past, Clemson and nobody else, or Florida State and nobody else. The league at the halfway point at least has a couple candidates that if they can keep their nose clean and not have the major stumble, should be at least in the conversation when we get into the middle of November into late November.
Yeah, I think Clemson probably has more stumbling blocks ahead of them than Miami does. But I think, as I kind of joked about, Mario Cristobal brings with him a stumbling block. We're just waiting for something like that to happen. Hopefully it doesn't, because watching Cam Ward play at this level is absolutely amazing. But I want to go to the Tigers.
Hold on a second, Adam. I would say one thing though. And I agree with you with Cristobal. I'm not so sure he's already had that stumbling block and was saved.
Right.
I mean, quite frankly, Miami could be just as easy going LL after what we watched in California in the end of that Virginia Tech game. Without some help. And listen, you got to be good. You got to be talented. Miami's both of those. But, man, you also got to be lucky. And I don't care if you're Georgia, Alabama, Miami, you fill in the blank. You got to catch some breaks. And I think Miami's already caught two major breaks, to be honest with you.
Real quick about the Miami-Virginia Tech ending. Is it fair to say they got the call right at the end, but the way they got there was the worst possible look?
100% right. And when I was watching the game, I couldn't believe they ruled it a touchdown. And like the refs after a discussion said touchdown, I went, man, I didn't think anybody had the ball. Then you watch all the replays, another 6-7 minutes later, you're like, well, Virginia Tech won the game because there's no way they can overturn the call on the field, which was a touchdown. Of course, I was wrong on that front, but I think you're correct. At the end of the day, the ending was correct, but how they got there was completely wrong.
Oh my God! I feel so bad for Virginia Tech. They thought they had that win, but again, I don't. I think it was an incomplete pass. All right, are the Clemson Tigers legit, or have they just taken advantage of the competition that's been in front of them?
Maybe both. The competition has not been great. Of course, when you look at the schedule before the season, you're thinking, man, that NC State-Clemson game is going to be huge.
Right.
And NC State's rolled over and played dead, and I'm stunned with what I've seen from NC State, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. We thought App State, App State's always good. And then, they were a complete, total wash in that game. So I think Clemson's playing better than anybody in the league right now. Their offense is legit, and so is Georgia. Listen, they played a lousy – everybody's dumped on Clemson getting beat 34-3, but if you watch the game, it's 6-0 at the half.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, anything can happen here. Georgia played a great 30 minutes of football to win that game the way they did, and they were the better team. But I think Clemson's pretty good. Again, we're going to find out. You mentioned the schedule. It picks up in November when Louisville, who, by the way, Dabo's never lost to them, but Louisville's legit. A trip to Virginia Tech. Dabo's never lost to them either. And then a trip to Pittsburgh. And to my knowledge, I don't think Clemson's ever won at Pitt. So, it'll all take care of itself one way or the other. But I think if you're a Clemson fan watching this team, especially after the first game debacle in the second half against Georgia, they have responded. Listen, the schedule is the schedule, but Clemson fans have to really be happy with the way they watch Cade Klubnik and this offense perform, and the defense is always salty.
Yeah, and South Carolina's not going to be easy at the end in a rivalry game.
Right.
I mean, I've seen South Carolina at times look really good this season. Miami doesn't have as much in front of them, but again, and I mean, I don't know where you'd put Cam Ward in terms of the Heisman Trophy, but I mean, he is way up there on the list for me. Travis Hunter, I know is hurt now for Colorado, but I mean, for me, it was Travis Hunter because he impacts both sides of the ball so well. But, I mean, I think Cam Ward's a definite candidate.
I think he's absolutely on a short list. And again, we were only at the halfway point, so a lot of stuff is going to happen the rest of the way. But I think if you're sitting here and you're being legit as far as, hey, are there 5 Heisman candidates? Who are they? If you didn't have Cam Ward in that top 5, you haven't paid attention or you're an idiot. He's got to be on the list.
All right, you mentioned Mark Packer is joining us at Mark Packer on Twitter, ACC Network. You mentioned the disappointment that has been NC State. I think the disappointment for me has been on the defensive side of the ball where they look like they just can't stop anybody. I think they beat Syracuse if they don't. I mean, a couple of turnovers were unfortunate. The strip sack was unfortunate for Bailey. I thought the interception, I think Raphael probably needs to do better in terms of catching that ball. It did go through. Was it high? Yeah, but it did go through both hands. So you probably need to bring that one down. Either way, joint blame there. But I thought they did a lot of good things offensively to win that game, but they can't stop anybody when it matters. And to me, that's been the disappointment for the Wolfpack.
Major disappointment. Listen, I had Miami and NC State in the ACC championship game, and I think the last time I was on with you, I told you we did the NC State road tour, and Dave Doran's a good football coach, and I think he even thought, hey, this is a really good club. They did a nice job in the NIL. They brought in the right parts. They increased the offensive production. You always trust Tony Gibson's defense and concept, even though with Peyton Wilson being out, you're like, okay, who's the next guy up? And you just figured NC State would get that figured out. I've been stunned watching them play. And, you went through the litany of things that happened on Saturday night. C.J. Bailey's the future. There's no question. He's got huge upside. He's going to be a really good quarterback for the Pack. But defensively, it's hard to watch them. It's like, man, I just don't even recognize this team based on the consistency that they've played with for years past. And, running the football has been a problem for the last couple of years, it seems like. And Jordan Waters coming from Duke, I thought that was the solution. But they've not run the ball consistently well. It's been a combination of everything. I mean, one week the defense doesn't tackle, and the next week the offense is good. And it's kind of all over the place. But I would have, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, if you would have told me in the middle of August, NC State rolling in the halfway point sub 500, I'd have told you you're crazy. But it is what it is. And, the Wolfpack's been a disappointment. Mac Brown in North Carolina have been a disappointment. Go figure that Manny Diaz is coming to the rescue. And, again, we'll find out more about Duke on Friday night when they get a chance to snap maybe one of the all-time streaks where they're 0 for life against Florida State. And if there's ever a year to do it, this is the year to do it if you're Duke.
Yeah, and Duke is as good as anybody in the country in disrupting you in the backfield. They're among the league leaders in sacks and tackles for loss. And Manny Diaz, we talked to him a couple of weeks ago. They've got their defense believing, and their offense is good enough. I mean, not to mention what Star Thomas is just incredible.
Player. Yep.
I mean, New Mexico State must have had a heck of a team. They provided Vanderbilt with their quarterback.
When they rolled in and beat up on Auburn, of course, everybody beats up on Auburn, despite Nick Saban saying it's such a tough place to play.
Right.
Only Nick had a problem there. Everybody else is wearing Auburn out. But you're right. I mean, they've had some dudes. And, again, it just goes to show you, the world of the portal, that if you're paying attention and you're on top of your game, you can find a couple pieces that just kind of trigger everything. And, again, I go back to how crazy it is that Army and Navy are both ranked this week. So you got, there's only 4 teams that didn't take a player in the portal: Clemson, Army, Navy, Air Force, and 3 of the 4 were in the top 25 this week. So for everybody who's been barking about the portal, that's the only way to do it. Maybe not. Maybe everybody should take a step back and try to figure it out. But again, you can find dudes. And again, Manny's done a really nice job, especially given what he had when he got on campus and everybody had left. I mean, everybody was gone. He put an amazing roster together in a short period of time. But of the 22, Duke's 0-22 all-time against Florida State. And I looked it up because I was just curious. Only one of those 22 losses has been in single digits. Again, given what we've seen with Florida State, who I don't think anybody would argue is the biggest disappointment at the halfway point in college football, nobody saw them coming in 1-5. For the Blue Devils Friday night, it is the golden opportunity, without question.
I can't wait for the first ever, not first ever because it won't be, but probably the first time in 70 years that Army and Navy were both ranked when they meet in December. Mark Packer, at Mark Packer on Twitter, ACC Network. Thank you very much for joining the program today. We'll do it again soon.
Adam, anytime. Take care of yourself.
You got it. Mark Packer here on the Adam Gold Show.